my main thing is that it brought people together. So, at the end of the class, we would have a cup of tea and a chat as well. So we discussed what we were learning, but I was able to then transfer that into my other classes during the week with the same students. So I was able to promote more discussion. And instead of some of the toxic discussions that we might have, and they're not all, don't get me wrong, but we were able to talk about other things now. And we did talk about other things like art, literature, history, geography, everything. And that's why the work is a success, is because we kind of worked in a team then. And working in teams in a prison is always makes for a great project, So I think that's what we kind of got from that. Is there anything else?
I mean, I think the fact that there was a focus as well.
Yes.
That you were working on an exhibition for Spike Island. I think that was very powerful. Would you like to tell us more about that, Therese?
I suppose every year we have an exhibition in Spike. This has started in 2012, and we've had it right up until, I suppose, well, the last one was 2019, obviously, but we're hoping to have one again next year now. So after Christmas, every year we begin to work on the work for it. And it was fantastic because we then had a focus with visible thinking to actually have our theme already made for us, So when we were doing the great masterpieces and the history of Cork and the great prison literature, we had that focus already there. So it was easy because the discussion around every class and around every piece, it just rolled into each other. And we did produce great work from it, but most importantly, the process was most important. And the process is most important for working towards Spike. It's not only about the exhibition, it's not only about having, the body of work for it, it's about producing work that will fit into a space. But you know what? We can have less space or more space. It's about the quality of the work. And once the lads know they're working for something like an exhibition, they immediately think, oh, well, this is going to a place where everybody's going to see it. So, I better put in an extra effort as well, Not that they wouldn't do that anyway, but it just added and was a bonus to the class as well, And down in Spike, we have a great exhibition space at our disposal. So it was very easy to fit the work in there.
That, a project that is as complicated as this, that has so many different moving parts, it needs to have goodwill. And when you have goodwill from a really positive community from both sides, both the university and the Irish Prison Service, then you can achieve anything, So, and Therese, I think Spike is a very interesting place. Can you just tell us a little bit about the history of Spike in relation to the development of the arts? So I'm thinking particularly of after 1985. There was a
there was a school, I suppose. I'm not sure when the school opened there, but I know when I came in 1994, it was well established. And art was a huge focus down there, as it was in our own education unit. I think basically when education started off, creativity was nurtured. It was really nurtured. It was really important. And I'm not saying it's not there now, but there's an awful lot more focus on other things now, as there is in every other institution. So, but I really there was always 3 or 4 art teachers in every prison, and there was always lots of students and lots of things for them to do. So it is a very, very important part of prison life, and a very important part of I suppose the continuing education in the prison. Now, Spike closed down, I think it was 2004. And then all the prisoners were, dispersed around the country. But originally it had been for young offenders, really. I don't know if people remember, but in Cork there was a lot of joyriding going on in the 80s, and they were all shipped off down to Spike to do no more further harm to anyone. So, you know, and unfortunately, I still have one or two guys who have been incarcerated in Spike in the 80s. I still have them in my class today, on and off, not consistently. But so, you know, it was, I suppose, it's Cork's Alcatraz. You know, it was always a hard place to get onto, a hard place to get out of. You know, when the teachers were down there, they had to stay there for the whole day. There was no getting off the island. So in ways, they were incarcerated there too. I've visited it as an education unit, and it was a very interesting place to go to, because you did feel completely isolated and away from everything. And you did feel it was very much a prison too. And then you had to get on the boat and come home. So, you know, it was an experience. And well worth a visit now, because they've kept one wing of it, I think, with to display some of the works that were left there, you know, so they're permanently on display there. So it's a good place to visit anyway, you know. But does that answer your questions?
Yeah, it does. And I think also we were really, really lucky in the sense that halfway through this project, so I'm thinking about, you know, 2018, Professor Maggie O'Neill was appointed in UCC as Professor of Sociology and Criminology, and that was a wonderful benefit to me. Maggie's welcoming, and also Katharina, who's here as well, and Katharina and Maggie had worked with Inside Out in a UK context, and applied some of that thinking about Inside Out to what we were doing as well in the education unit. And for me, this was a really welcoming community, and continues to be a welcoming community of criminologists and sociologists, because my own background is within disciplinary history. So it was wonderful to be welcomed in this way. And I think actually what Katharina and Maggie, what you've done is you've given us this academic core that helps us to look critically at what we do. And I would like to hear, maybe particularly from Katharina, about what do you think were those synergies between what you were doing or trying to do with Inside Out and what we were doing with Therese in the studio in terms of art practice? Where were those points of connection, and how did you see them play out in your classroom, in the Inside Out group that you were working with?